First up for today's session, I'm pleased to welcome back to our studio Zandile Makhoba from Liberty. Nice to have you back with us. Zandile, let's get straight into things here, perhaps with a bit of a recap of what you and your team do at Liberty.
So with research and insights, one of our big focuses is really to bring the outside world in, to really get a sense of how the macroeconomic environment is affecting our businesses, our clients, and hopefully today's insights will just show us a little bit more of that.
And that's exactly what we touched on in the first Leading Edge Insights webinar, right? Because you took us through global economic trends impacting the business landscape, and then the importance of actually valuing human capital within that context by considering the investments made, the true value of experience, the impact on profitability as well, all with an eye on what business owners and managers need to consider as they look to return to the growth path again. Today, we look to the future once again, but let's piece together a bit of an action plan at this point to capture growth in what is an increasingly complex reality.
So I think the times we're in really give us a chance to reflect on our businesses, to start thinking a lot more strategically. We can have a wait and see attitude, looking forward to an economy that's recovering, a global economy that's in a different space. And I think now is a very opportune time to kind of make the changes you need to make in your business. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today. Just, looking at the bright side and seeing the opportunities in what seems like a really bleak economic environment.
Before we get into your presentation, what needs to be emphasized is that you've continuously got to relook that plan. It's got to be an imperative. It's crazy to believe that just over a month ago, we were here chatting about economic indicators, and so much has changed since then, whether we're looking at global or local forces.
Yeah, so it's that thing of really being agile, being plugged in and in terms of what is happening around you and being able to move around it. The globe is changing. The macroeconomic forecasts are changing all the time. We'll see just now how GDP was expected to be much stronger in 2022. And all of a sudden, we're talking a lot about recession, not just for South Africa, but very many other parts of the world as well. But within all of that, there's still a ray of hope, and hopefully that's what we get out there today.
But we've got to have a firm handle on how we're going to navigate around
Absolutely.
The shifts that come into play, how we navigate this new normal, as we call it. You've got further insights to share, as you've been alluding to. So let's get straight into what you're presenting today.
Thank you, Alicia. And so we'll just start with the macroeconomic outlook, the global outlook. 2022 was supposed to be the year of recovery. The World Bank was actually forecasting GDP growth of 4% for the world. That has been quickly revised down to 2.9%. And as we've already touched on, recession is something that's on everybody's lips. Stagflation is something that is on everybody's lips. And you can just see from the chart, it's not a once-off event. We are going to see low growth at least up to the year 2024. And South Africa is not immune to the changes we're seeing. The war between Ukraine and Russia, our own challenges with the political system, as well as the floods we've experienced recently, are really painting a bleak picture just in terms of where we're going. GDP growth in South Africa alone is expected to sit below that 2% well into 2025. So it's very difficult, I think, for us to think of a hopeful and a radiant economy when we're looking at these GDP figures that are telling us quite differently. And that's coming out just in terms of our business confidence index. The Bureau of Economic Research measures business confidence, and we're really looking for a mark that's around 50 index points or higher. And as you can see, just in Q2 of this year, we're sitting well below that 50-point mark, really speaking to a discouraged business sector. But if we dissect the GDP outlook just a little bit further, there are sectors that are really big and very dominating. There are regions that are really big and dominating. And it makes us really not see some of the pockets of growth and pockets of opportunity that exist. So here we're just looking at GDP by province with an outlook up to 2025. And as you can expect, Gauteng not doing very well, still well below those 2%. But look at what happens in the Northern Cape. So going from a GDP growth of about 0 this year, we're going to see a jump to 1.7% in the coming year. We see a clear upward trend in GDP just in terms of the Free State. So what's happening in these regions and in these smaller provinces that we're not actually hearing about just in terms of the media? We can again talk about the Limpopo province, which is also going to see a gradual increase going into next year and staying well within those 2% GDP growth rates that we're not seeing anywhere else in the country.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There's real opportunity that can be leveraged off.
No, definitely. And we'll see some of the reasons why that is. We can also then look at some of the economic sectors of the country. So some of our biggest ones, like the financial services sector, not as low as we'd expect, so 2.5% growth this year, but also somewhat of an upward trend expected over the next 3 years. Something like the construction sector, which has had quite a roller coaster over the past few years, is expected to almost be around 4% growth in this year and next year. So really something already happening in that space. We can talk about transport as well. That's also seeing a gradual increase. Under transport, we include the storage and the logistics sector. And we've seen how that has really benefited just in terms of what has happened around COVID-19 and people looking to get the convenience of being serviced from home through the logistics sector.
So this is what we're talking about when we start to talk about green shoots starting to emerge in the economy.
Absolutely. And if we're blind to these opportunities, we'll miss out on the chance to actually take advantage of them as business owners. And hopefully let's not miss that chance while we're here. So we're going to talk a little bit about, how we can make the best of these times. It might not be the best time for the industry that you're in to actually maybe be growing like we've seen in some of the other sectors, but that doesn't mean we just sit back and let the times roll with us. And what we've seen is that mergers and acquisitions have really increased over the past few years. This lockdown phase going into this war period has actually created some opportunities for businesses, while others have lost value. This has actually created an opportunity for those with capital and money to spend to start looking at ways to buy up or expand where they're looking to do so.
Yeah.
So we're going to just look at the trends around mergers and acquisitions in South Africa. And in 2021 alone, we saw 473 merger and acquisition deals. If you look at just 2019, it's almost a direct comparison just in terms of the number of deals. But Alicia, look at the value of the deals, which is the dark blue line that we see there. We've gone from around 400 billion in 2019 to a staggering 927 billion rand in deals. And this is a trend we're expecting to continue in the year 2022. And of course, there should be more opportunities that arise from there going forward.
Why that extreme jump in value?
That this time during lockdowns allowed us to rethink, reconfigure, and see how the world is changing. And a lot of businesses are then taking this opportunity to make the changes that they need. Let's look at a few examples that highlight some of that. So we've seen mergers and acquisitions related to market sizing or increasing your own size. I've included Boxer Superstores here, which is a subsidiary of the Pick n Pay business. Not a very well-known brand in some of the urban areas, but they've expanded so much in some of our smaller towns across the country. This year alone, Boxer has purchased 4 businesses, so 4 acquisitions, not very well-known retailers across the country, but you're just seeing how they're taking this time to really expand their footprint and get the brand out there. Mm-hmm. Another really cool example is Yoco, so nice fintech business that is doing really great things, supporting the SME space quite significantly and providing a solution around non-cash sales for businesses. So Yoco's acquired a business called Nona Digital This is a fintech organization. And what's quite interesting about this acquisition is that they were saying, we're not acquiring this business for its clients or what it's been able to do. We're really interested in the human capital of this business.
Wow.
The guy actually says, we're literally buying them for their talent and not their clients. So really quite a strategic move in terms of acquiring skills at a very opportune time.
It brings a new definition to the war for talent, right?
No, definitely. So we can then look at some other reasons around mergers at this time. And this is actually a global organization, which is ADA. Mm-hmm. They're already quite well diversified across the globe, as you can see on the map. But they're also quite diversified just in terms of the industries they operate in, going from offices, metal production, glass production. And they've made this acquisition of Console, a local South African business. So really, we've seen Console attracting this capital, but diversification is quite important in times like this when you're not sure what industries are going to survive the changing times that we're in. And even smaller organizations can take on the same mentality around just shifting how they work and operate.
Yeah.
Then we move to a last example around the mergers and acquisitions, and we're talking here about the Foschini Group. Very much a brick and mortar store. Every mall in South Africa has probably some kind of a Foschini Group store. But lockdown, I think, raised the flag for the organization.
Needed to get its act together fast.
Definitely. The likes of Takealot and realizing that online retail is something real and something that they need to confront. And so they've gone off to acquire Quench, which is already existing in the online retail space. They offer the logistical services of making sure that deliveries reach people. And this is, nice strategic way of gradually entering a space that you might not be completely comfortable in and just really allowing Foschini Group to position itself in a vastly changing world.
Yeah. For these transactions to happen, though, there needs to be a level of confidence in play. Are you seeing stark difference between local investor sentiment and confidence levels versus foreign?
So if you just look at what we've seen today, only one of these examples is a global organization. So it's really about having a future view and having a clear strategy for the business, one that's agile enough for you to move with the changing times. Yeah, these organizations have been able to see an opportunity at a time when many have chosen to go for voluntary liquidation or even worse.
Yeah, I asked the question because we're constantly looking at capital flow into the South African economy, right?
Yeah, and speaking of capital flow, Alicia, foreign direct investment, there's nothing more that talks of the confidence that we have in the country and the market than what we do with foreign direct investment. And South Africa has continued to attract capital from all over the world, and we're going to look at a few examples on this. This is just a matrix of global investment activity. I mean, the world is in turmoil. Everywhere there is a challenge. But despite that, global companies are investing all over the world. Answering to some of the burning needs across the world, we've got more than 25% of investment going to renewable energy. Another one related to energy is the coal, oil, and gas production. But if you just look at this matrix in its totality, you'll see that a lot of these industries are traditional, been there very long, nothing new. It's companies that know that we're going to get beyond these weak economic times and eventually get to a recovered economy and a growing economy. So we see the examples like electronic components, transport, real estate, metals, sounds like basically the economic structure of South Africa. And this is what world businesses are investing in. Mm. Locally, we've continued to see global investment, and nothing speaks of the success and interest in South Africa like the President's investment summits. To date, we've seen 96 billion rand flowing to South Africa in investment commitments. And it's really interesting where this capital flows to. So if we looked at just the industries that people are interested in, mining has attracted 22 billion. This is a sector we talk about, the the death of mining and how there's been so many challenges in the mining sector. But it's actually one that continues to attract investment. Manufacturing and the services sectors are also top 3. And we're not even speaking here of fourth industrial revolution yet. It just reminds us that existing businesses have so much potential going forward. If we look at the regional differences, Gauteng remains one of the main provinces where we are attracting capital, but it's really interesting to some of our smaller economic provinces like the Northwest and the Eastern Cape being top 3 as well, just in terms of attracting foreign direct investment.
At this point, I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room here. To what extent is the political economy, that political sphere, muddying the waters for all of this and this potential that we clearly have?
So I think beyond just looking at the politics of the country, it's important to see if the economy is working. And clearly, we see just from foreign investment that the country is operational. There's no economy that does not have its own challenges. But the mere fact that we're moving into a space where we find solutions and find reasons for investors to invest in South Africa is showing potential and a plan for a state to improve and pave a way forward towards recovery.
Yeah.
So let's look at a few examples of foreign investors doing interesting things all over South Africa. So what you see there in the picture is the beginning of the establishment of a solar energy plant. So Scartech is renewable energy producer all over the world. And this is actually going to be the biggest investment they've ever made in one country in one project. 16 billion rand will go into this investment. And it sits in one of our most quietest provinces of the country in the Northern Cape. What I love about this project is that it's answering some of our burning questions around the energy crisis. And, you know, we've got this solar energy, we've got the sun that is there with us all the time. And finally, we're getting that harnessed and put into the grid.
So this is a clear example that speaks loudly to how you take that challenge, clearly the energy crisis that we're experiencing, and convert it into
an opportunity. Absolutely. Another quite interesting example, Huawei. So instead of investing in further production of its own goods or distribution of its own goods, they've taken a really interesting angle in South Africa. They're investing 100 million rand in 1,000 startups in South Africa. So if you're in the fintech space or in the technology space, Huawei is looking to invest in you. And really what I love about this is that, again, we're getting into the space of creating an technological integration in South Africa. Hopefully through these investments, you know, we gain a lot from the expertise and the advances that China has made just in terms of the tech space, and allows us to move in this direction as a country as well. Another example, this one is in the pharmaceuticals industry. We've talked a lot about vaccines over the past 3 years. COVID really pushing us to find solutions towards the pandemic. But one that's been with us for a very long time is HIV and AIDS. And what Moderna is doing with partners, they've started trialing a HIV vaccine in South Africa. So imagine if these trials are successful, we'd have a solution to something that's been an ongoing challenge for South Africans for a very long time. Very excited to see how this project pans out and where Moderna finishes with this work.
Hopefully it's mired in a lot less controversy than the COVID-19 vaccines currently are.
I mean, these are the vaccines that I think most South Africans are looking forward to. And we can go through a whole bunch of other examples. Netflix is investing 900 million production, stimulating the entertainment sector, and then Amazon taking on the likes of Takealot. So you really see confidence just from global investors in the South African market and in the South African consumer, which a lot of us might not be very awake to. So Alicia, the last thing we want to talk about today is just in terms of government initiatives. Where is, where are we seeing efforts to actually support growth from a fiscal perspective? And what I really like about the special economic zones, it's not about rescuing or, just providing the solution. Special economic zones are creating environments for businesses to flourish. What happens here is that there's a demarcated area with special rules and laws, tax advantages for businesses to encourage them to actually invest in South Africa, to drive the industrialization agenda and really create export-led growth.
Yeah.
We already have a few special economic zones in South Africa. There's 11 in total. Just to touch on one is the Atlanta Special Economic Zone in the Western Cape, which is really focused on green industries. But we know that there's many that are fostering manufacturing, production, construction, and really stimulating employment opportunities all over South Africa.
Yeah.
We also have about 6 new special economic zones which are in the pipeline. We're going to talk a little bit about Namakwa in a little bit, but very interested and excited to see the science and high-tech special economic zone, which will be established in Pretoria in the Gauteng region as we move quickly into fourth industrial revolution. Why focus on special economic zones, and have they been successful so far that
That's
we
the
should,
big question, right?
go into another phase of having 6 additional ones to the existing 11? The numbers don't lie. So we've got 145 companies already committed, 83 more commitments expected in the future. So companies are already growing in these spaces and taking advantages of what is there. 20 billion rands worth of investment in special economic zones. So you have to be constructing something. There has to be a factory involved. There has to be production involved. People are very active in these spaces. And there's almost 40 billion rand that is already committed towards projects in special economic zones. And the beauty of it all is that it generates employment creation. It solves an existing problem in South Africa where we've had so much growth that has no employment attached to it. This is one opportunity in which we get investment that now re-stimulates this ability for companies to create jobs in South Africa. A few examples just in terms of where investment is happening and what's happening. Ford has invested almost 16 billion rands towards vehicle production in South Africa for local use and for export. But it shows a lot of confidence just in the South African consumer under the right conditions for companies to be able to flourish in the South African environment. So without the red tapes of some of the regulations that make it difficult for businesses, these are the things that can happen. Ford is very committed to Pretoria and this Silverton Automotive Special Economic Zone. We can talk a little bit about Toyota as well, more in the Durban region. Few challenges there over the floods, but they're still committed to growth in the region and making progress in that space. Namakwa, I love, and again, it just touches on what is happening in the Northern Cape, a region which is just seen as a desert, not much focus on it over the past couple of years. And really, we're starting to see this growth of business and industry and initiative in a place that's been really quiet and not much happening. We're going to see mineral beneficiation.
And that exactly jumped out at me when you popped up this slide, beneficiation, because that's been the drum that we've been beating for the longest while.
Absolutely. So we've got so much investment going into the mining sector now, as we've seen in the foreign direct investment numbers. But then to just export raw materials, let's be part of the additional process of creating value through those minerals that we mine. Construction activity we're expecting from the region. We can go through the whole list, but definitely green energy production is something we really need, and hopefully it comes on the grid as quickly as possible, just in terms of solving our energy solutions. So a real beautiful example of making something out of absolutely nothing.
It really is a fabulous story that we're looking at here. But I've got to take you back into that political arena just for a minute, because we're heading into the 2024 elections. So when it comes to those political manifestos that are going to be published, that we're going to be seeing flung at us left, right, and center, what would need to be seen within those manifestos to increase business confidence, because it creates an enabling business environment?
I think the SEZs are a real example of that. We need to see political parties being committed to creating an enabling environment for businesses. Don't make it difficult. Reduce the red tape. Create incentives that allow us to invest and invest more easily. I think what's also important is really taking care of the security challenges that we are seeing in the country. If we're not able to deal with that, even us as South Africans will lose confidence in our own country.
Thanks so much, Zandile, for joining us today and for helping us kickstart this conversation, for helping us set the scene as well. It's been a pleasure catching up with you once again. Well, as much as opportunity will present itself in slow to no growth economies, and there are mechanisms businesses can employ to remain resilient, we all hope that the next shifts we see in the political arena are steps more so in the right direction, and that really creating a more open for business environment that will see much more needed private sector investment flow into the economy, supporting overall economic growth.